Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. We just finished up the busiest weekend to date in setting up our little homestead situation. I not only made these benches out of 100% free pallet wood, I made an upgraded duck pool / spa. I built not one, not two, but three garden entrances that are little arbors with gates. We also installed a privacy fence along the front and side fence of our property. So if you would like to see how I was able to accomplish this all within one weekend, just keep watching. We are upgrading the duck pool from the little itty bitty $6 pool to this big boy. It is 5 foot across, over 11 inches deep. They'll be much happier. They'll be able to dive a little better. And I'm installing a drain because I'm not gonna be able to lift it. And I wanna use the water to water the base of my fruit trees. So we have the drain, this coupling that I attached an elbow to. I don't know any of the technical terms for these. This doohickey is attached, so I don't know. But then this changes it to schedule 40. I just glued on my little thingies here. We're gonna screw that in here so it'll go out. And then this is a ball valve that I can use on the other end to drain the water out. And the drain also came with a plug. So this will allow me to connect a water hose to this side. So this will be sitting on a pallet, so all the plumbing can go out underneath. I'll have to build a ramp for the duckies to get up into their pool. That should not be an issue. So yeah, let's go get her installed. There it goes. Okay, take one. Not a success. So the entire bottom of the pool is now sitting on the platform somehow. So hopefully it does not flex again and dump all the water out. I guess we'll see. here is the current setup for the pool. It is Monday morning. We just figured this out and got to this point yesterday evening. So it took us all weekend to figure this dang pool out. But it's still up on pallets, on skids, to get it up off the ground enough for the plumbing to work. It's still not perfectly level. I did level as much as I could on this area. And then I fixed the extension so that the pool is now sitting all on wood and there's no gap right here because it was sinking into that gap and I didn't want it to bust through my pool. So we have the drain attached to a coupler, which is attached to an elbow, which has an adapter to Schedule 40 pipe, which is right here. It is now attached to a ball valve that I can hook a hose to drain the water out to water the base of my fruit trees. They have a ramp and some stairs. So far, they have not figured out how to get up into the pool. Last night, I put them in the pool, and they had no trouble figuring out how to get out. I didn't witness it, so I'm not sure if they used the steps versus the ramp, but they were out when I came to put them to bed for the night. So hopefully today they'll figure out how to get up in by themselves, because as you can see, they're out of drinking water. So I'm hoping now that they know where the pool is, they will figure it out when they get thirsty. And I'm not going to fill this water up for maybe a couple hours, not so they get dehydrated, but I want them to find water on their own. And then if they're not figuring it out, I'll come fill this up and then I might place them back in the pool again for practice. So this is where we are right now. It's not pretty, but it's functional. And that's how we live our life here on the Unhinged Homestead. So we are back to Saturday now. And in the course of this day's events, this was after the first failure of the duck pool. So we decided to take a break and kind of figure out what we needed to do in that sense. And we moved on to this privacy fence. This is just a privacy mesh that I found on Amazon that you can attach to any fence. It comes in different lengths, different heights. Our property is surrounded by a 4-foot fence. And we have zero privacy, which, you know, isn't a terrible thing. But our neighbors did just get 2 puppies, as you can see in the background. It's a Great Dane puppy and then like a little fluffy, poodle-y type puppy. Super friendly. But Bailey, our black lab, does not like them. And they keep trying to, I don't know if they're playing or fighting, but they keep trying to get at each other through the fence. And now that we have put this garden area up in our little orchard, Bailey kept trying to break through the garden fence to get to this fence to mess with these dogs. So we decided to put up this privacy mesh just on the garden portion. It goes all the way up to our front corner and then across the front of our fence around the garden as well. And it has helped. They can't see each other now. They can still go behind our sheds on this fence line. We did not take it all the way to the back of the property. So they can still go behind our sheds and say hello and wreak havoc back there. But at least now they are away from the important part of the property. Are you? Stop! I thought it was a bug. I was like, what is with the flies today?
Oh, no.
So now that my husband has finished messing with me, we can continue on with this fence. It's super easy to install. It came with zip ties that you can attach to any fence. There's metal grommets along the top and bottom. As you can see, we do have that wooden pole as part of our fencing. And my husband bought a grommet installer from Harbor Freight, and we just added our own grommets to get it tight around that pole. And then we just continued on. Macho Man over here was such a good helper holding this fence in place while I applied the zip ties. And at first when we started, we were a little skeptical because we only went across the top and it was flapping in the wind and we were afraid it was just going to look like a black tarp. But once we started going across the bottom too and pulling everything taut and stretching it tight, it started to look nicer. Now it's definitely no professional privacy fence. It's more of a temporary fix, but it doesn't look terrible, and it does afford the privacy that we would like. So switching gears here, I am assembling the third arbor entrance to our garden area. I built the first two off camera the day before because it was very much a trial and error process. But now that I have built two, I filmed the third one, and I had it down pat now. I knew all my measurements. I pre-cut all my wood. All I had to do was put it together. So here I did the top and bottom slats to make sure everything was square, and then I did my middle slat. Everything else, slat-wise, is eyeballed. The spacing is somewhat even to the naked eye. I was not going for perfection. It's all made of 2x4s and pallet wood, so it's going to have kind of a rustic vibe to it, so I wasn't looking for perfect measurements. I just wanted everything to work together. I wanted all three of them to match, but they're not all exactly the same, if that makes sense. It probably makes no sense, but this is just one side. To do the other side, I just laid the boards on top and matched everything up, so it goes together quite quickly, especially since I had everything pre-cut. And this is still Saturday. It was chilly here in Texas. I think the high this day was only like 65, and the day before it was super sunny and warm, and I did not have the proper sun protection, and I got burnt to a crisp. So all day today, if the sun was out, I was hot. If it was behind any sort of cloud, I was cold from my sunburn, giving me a chill. So that's why my outfit keeps changing. I just keep having to disrobe or put my sweater on because I was cold. So we're almost finished assembling the second side of this arbor, and then we're going to get it laid out and put the front pieces on. So here are the top boards that span across the front and the back of the arbor. And at the end of the video, when I give you like the full after shot / tour, I'll show you what our pergola looks like over this rocky area in our backyard where we have our swings and our sitting area. And I was fashioning these boards after that because I wanted everything to kind of complement each other and match. So I'm just angling these boards and then we'll get them attached. And I just took a measurement of how wide my doorway opening was, and I'm just matching these up to that opening to make sure it fits in there nice and snug. And I am not working on level ground here. So I just kept going back with my measuring tape and making sure that my measurements were still what they needed to be. I have a speed square that I'm going through and making sure I'm attaching the boards square to each other. Because you can see on that right side, that side of the trellis keeps rocking because none of our ground is level. So here, the bottom of my feet kept kind of twisting and trying to move around. So I just put that support board there to keep them where they needed to be at the bottom while I attached everything to the top. So everything stayed square and as perfect as possible. Hi there. Now that I've got the two front pieces attached, I'm going to take the support board off the bottom and everything stays where it's supposed to be. And now we can go on to assemble the door. And now at this point I had made 2 other doors because there are 2 other arbors. And this was the smallest one, as in the most narrow. And this was the hardest door to get together. I built the other 2 all by myself with no problem, but for some reason, I don't know if I was just weak, because at this point we had been working on this almost 48 hours, and I was tired, and I could not get this door to come together. So I had to call in my husband's muscles, and I just stood there holding the wood. And then once we got it all put together with the supports and everything, I told him to leave me alone and go cut grass or something. Just kidding. He already had been cutting grass, so he just went back to it.
Upgrade to Pandora Plus to better carry the vibe. With Pandora Plus, you get unlimited skips and replays, ad-free music, and you'll discover surprise tracks you didn't.
Y'all, we love Bailey, but he is nothing but a troublemaker. He is constantly instigating crap with our other dogs. And finally, one of them put him in his place and he tripped and fell. And I thought it was the funniest thing because he doesn't normally get what he deserves. And today he did. And I'm glad I had the camera rolling because now I can go back and laugh at it all the time. But this project turned out so perfect in the sense that this piece of welded wire was the very last piece that we had from the roll that we purchased. And it fit this door perfectly. The clouds opened up, the stars aligned. The Lord was looking out for us. I was so happy that I did not have to buy more or use some other different type of material that didn't match. So I just added my hinges on, and then we're going to get everything in place and install it where it goes on the garden fence. I was so ready to do away with this jerry-rigged, janky gate that I came up with. It was functional, it did its job, but man, was it ugly. And this arbor just looks so much nicer and really helps pretty up the area. I definitely burned my fingers on that screw. So a little lesson in friction. Screws get hot when rubbing against wood. But here I enlisted the help of the husband's muscles again to place the arbor in place. And look at that, it fits like a glove. And here I'm just going to use my rickety little step stool and put up the top slats. And again, everything is eyeballed. I did use a board and batten calculator on the internet to do the first two to get like the spacing perfect, and honestly it just took way too much time and it still isn't perfect. So this time I just lined it up with my eyeballs and it's still not perfect, but I think it looks nice. Did you? Could you see yourself in the camera? So here I'm just test fitting to make sure the door is going to fit, because if you've seen previous videos, sometimes when I make a door, it doesn't like to close. But this one, even though it was the hardest one to assemble, it is the best fitting one. It fits in there perfectly. Hardly any gaps, so I'm very happy with that. But now I'm just attaching it, and then later on I do go back and add latches, but my phone ended up dying, so I didn't get that part on camera. But there is a latch to keep the gate closed. Welcome to Sunday morning, where tempers were high, spirits were low, muscles were very tired, and we just wanted to be done with this weekend. We hadn't been able to relax at all the entire weekend. We had been working from pretty much sun up to well past sundown to try to get all these projects completed. The only time we really took a break was to feed our kids and push them on a swing. It was a gift from my mommy. But here we are just taking the rest of our pallets and we're going to make a couple benches to put in the orchard area to have a nice place to sit. But this reciprocating saw was a gift from my mom, and it's battery operated using a DeWalt battery. And this is our first project that we used it on. So, worked pretty well. So here I'm just taking a few screws to attach these 4 pallets to each other loosely just to keep them in place. And then we're going to set the backrest on the back where my husband cut those side pieces at an angle so it kind of reclined just a little bit so you weren't at a 90-degree angle. But then we took some scrap pieces to use as supports on either side. And if you see the feet of each of those pallets. They're like 2x4s with little cutouts. He just took those through his table saw and ripped them down. So they kind of resemble a 2x2. And that's what we're using as supports along the back and for the armrests coming up here in a minute. But these benches were 100% made of pallet wood that we got for free from a family member. So it was a fun little project. We just used some screws we already had. We already had these cushions in storage from when we replaced our patio furniture on the front porch, and we just kept these. So, and they fit on the pallet perfectly. So it's like it was meant to be. So these are just the centerpieces that we had cut out of the pallets when we were cutting the pallets in half. And I'm going to use them as armrests. So my husband just cut them down to the size I needed them to be. And I'm just attaching them to these supports so that everything is attached together. So eventually these benches will be stained, as will the 3 arbor gates. And you can see behind me kind of our pergola at our seating area over the rocks, and it's a dark walnut stain. We're going to be staining everything the same color so everything matches and flows nicely. But I knew that was not going to happen today, because at this point I was ready to be done. My husband and I were not speaking to each other at this point. I was just going to attach the cushions and then build the other one. And this is what they look like. After this, we cleaned up our mess, went inside, took a well-deserved nap, and came back out later to fix the duck pond. We are going to end today's video here with a little overview of what we accomplished this weekend. We have the chicken entrance to the right here. We have the garden entrance number 1 here. All the way down on the end, you can see the 3rd entrance. They all match. They all have latch gates. And eventually they will be stained a dark walnut. That will be coming up most likely in the next video. Our privacy fence is installed and looks decent. Our 2 free pallet benches are finished. I will also be most likely making a small table to go in the center for any drinks or to put your feet up. And our updated duck pool, which does not look decent, but it is functional. I really appreciate you making it this far into the video. Like, comment, subscribe, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!